Let's get more on the Kavanaugh situation from George Washington University law professor Jonathan Turley. Jonathan, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Quite some developments here. Where do you think this is headed?
I think it's heading to a public hearing. There was a move to try to have some type of closed hearing, but I think we really are past that. I think the Republicans are accepting they're going to have her testify, and if she testifies, the expectation is that he will have to testify. And that's not going to be a good situation for him because he can't finish with a tie here. You know, if he comes out and both of them are believable to some and not others, you still have a situation where he could bleed off 2 or 3 votes, and that's the margin that he has.
Speaking of that, one of those votes is Senator Susan Collins from Maine, one of the Republicans who has obviously some concerns about the nomination, but also about this. Here's what she said just a short time ago.
In order for me to assess the credibility of these allegations, that I want to have both individuals come before the Senate Judiciary Committee and testify under oath.
So essentially, we are looking at a Clarence Thomas situation and Anita Hill.
We are. But here is the first nominee I know of that's been accused of effectively attempted rape. You know, with Thomas, it was sexual misconduct. Here, you have someone who's saying that this is a nominee who tried to rape me.
He vigorously denies that, says he wasn't even at that party. He's having calls with staff members on the Senate Judiciary Committee. Clearly, he's pushing back here. If Democrats believe this accuser for him as a nominee, does that mean that they are going to start impeachment proceedings if his nomination is pulled? Because why would he be eligible for the second highest court in the land? Right,
that's the problem, is that you can't stop this train halfway through down the track. If you believe he is an attempted, that he was someone who tried to do an attempted rape or sexually assaulted an individual, it's hard to imagine he can be an Article III judge. So the Democrats may find themselves buying more than they're bargaining for. They would, it would seem rather incongruous to have him remain on the D.C. circuit if they're denying it on this basis a seat on the Supreme Court.
And how much does the 36 years factor in? That it was high school. He, again, pushes back hard that this never happened, but just the time frame.
Well, there is a real fairness concern here, not just because this was delayed since July. They waited until just before the vote for confirmation. But they're also throwing this controversy into the mix involving witnesses that, if they have any recollection at all, it's over 3 decades old. That takes time. It takes time to try to put together recollections and any type of evidence that you have. He doesn't have time right now if they're going to push this vote. But if they don't push the vote, then they push this process potentially past the midterm elections.
Which becomes another political issue. You wrote an op-ed for The Hill in which you wrote, among other things, quote, "It is a good thing there is not a Doppler radar for hypocrisy, or Washington would be in the midst of a mandatory evacuation." What do you mean there?
Well, it's a curious thing to see. I testified during the impeachment hearings that related to Bill Clinton. Back then, there wasn't this movement, you have to believe her. It wasn't just her, it was them. It was multiple women came forward to
Paula
say that,
Jones,
Juanita Broderick, claiming not just sexual assault but rape. They brought forth evidence that they claimed supported them on a contemporary basis. Many of these same members did not say that they had to believe them. To the contrary, they were attacked. And the Republicans back then, of course, wanted full disclosure. And so you're going to have...
Including Brett Kavanaugh and Judge Starr's...
That's right. And Kavanaugh wanted not just disclosure, but rather vivid disclosures as to what Bill Clinton did. So everyone's effectively going to switch sides in this, which is going to be rather daunting for people to watch. But watch they'll have to do, because it's unlikely that we will be able to conclusively show that someone is lying and someone's telling the truth. It'll be left to a credibility judgment, and you're going to have to make that by what you see in that hearing.
So we are at the beginning, not the end of this process.
I'm afraid we're at the rather messy beginning, and it's going to be an even messier ending.
Jonathan, as always, thanks.
Thank you.